Good morning everyone, this is Victor Christian from Fret Friend, and we've got something completely different today. This is not guitar related at all, so you're not going to see me, you'll see my hands though. Now what we've got here is an experiment. See, I've got a multimeter in front of you there with a reading on there, and let me just tell you that reading is 74, it's 74 and it's 74 degrees Celsius. I've got a heat probe plugged in. The reason I've got a heat probe plugged in is I'm going to show that this heat probe is working correctly, and the best way to do that is to show that a boiling kettle boils at 100 degrees, and there's a reason I need to show you that. You see how it's dropping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil the kettle, we'll drop the probe back in. This is water. I don't know, I'm going to show you it is water, just you can take my word for it if you want. Have a look in there. Can you see the shimmering water? It's not mercury, it's not paint, it's water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. Now I've already boiled it, and so it's already hot. I'm just going to drop the probe in there. It's in, and I'm going to turn on the kettle. You're going to watch it. So kettle's on. I'm doing this to prove the point, not so much prove the point, just to show something. So kettle's on, water's getting hotter, getting close to boiling. With the lid off, it won't switch itself off. So with the lid on, it reads temperature right, so it should stay on. It's going to read anything around 99, 100, 101 degrees. We know this multimeter's working right, and this is what I really need to show. The kettle's coming up to the boil now. The probe is still in there. 97, 98, 99. Kettle's now boiling. Showing 101 degrees, 102. Turn it off. Water's still boiling. So 103 degrees, it should be 100 degrees, so that probe is not absolutely bang on, but it's close enough for what we need it for. I probably can calibrate it, there probably is a way to calibrate it. It's new, I've not used it that much. So 3 degrees difference over 100 degrees reading. So if we say if it's 400 degrees, we could be 10 to 12 degrees out. Right, we understand that, that's absolutely fine. It could be about 8 degrees out. Just for argument's sake, let's say this reader is probably 2% out. Right, that's absolutely fine. It is 2 degrees out because we've just measured it, and the water's not boiling now, so it should be about, still showing 101 degrees. So we know that that's out by about 2 degrees. One more time, boil it. I will calibrate this machine later. There's a reason I wanted to show this machine and how it's working without testing it beforehand, because I'm going to move the kettle down and its base. These can go back in the kitchen shortly. The reason I've set up this experiment is I've got a soldering station from CSI, Circuit Specialist International. Solder station with solder iron. Now, turn it on. Move that out of the way. That's heated up to 300 degrees. And the reason I'm showing this, I'm going to move the camera slightly. And the reason I'm doing this experiment is I bought this from Circuit Specialist in April last year, so we're in July now, so you're looking 15 months ago. Then it's got a temperature read out there, and that's channel 2, 300 degrees. I've got it set to 100 degrees on the first channel, 480 degrees on the third channel. So I'm going to set it to 300, and I'm going to show what temperature this is actually giving. Now, it's only recently gone on the blink, and I'm going to show the tip. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to show the tip. This is a 3mm chisel tip. This is actually a chisel tip sent to me by Circuit Specialist International. I did it on a separate order. So it's their own chisel tip. It's new. It's been used. It's not been used. It's been heated a couple of times, but it's not been used. Now, this didn't particularly go on the blink, but it wasn't giving me the heat I was expecting. Now, this is the original soldering iron I got with it. So I thought, okay, it's not giving the right heat. It's not getting hot enough. Maybe the element's gone. So I went online, I had a look for a new element. You can't buy the element. You have to go and buy the whole thing, which is the lead, the soldering iron, with the element built in, ceramic element, blah, 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 blah. So it's £12.99 online, and it's with VAT and shipping. It's actually £18.95. I can show you that because I've got the receipt right here. Oh, it's got the price on it. But anyway, for what it's worth, there's the receipt. Blah 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 blah. Take my word for it, it's £18.95. So I went to bought one. And to prove I went to bought one, here it is. Slightly different. It's got 907K on the side, which I thought was for a different model. But it's got that on the side. It's the same kind of thing. No tip in it. I took the tip out. I took the tip out for a reason. What we're going to do is we're going to experiment. That's on 300 degrees Celsius on the machine. So it should be pulling out 300 Celsius. What we're going to do is, there's a problem with the machine there. Maybe I've never heard that before. But what we're going to do is, we're going to measure the heat of the tip. Now we're going to make sure the tip's clean. I've got no solder on there, no flux, no anything. Just going to clean it up. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to measure the heat on this tip. I'm going to try and get it somewhere in the camera. What I'm going to do is, measure the heat, and you just watch the multimeter. 300 degrees Celsius on the machine. The iron itself, now it's up to heat, is giving us 228, 230. The reason I've done this is, wasn't working right. Now it's giving us 230-ish. It's giving us 230 degrees. I've never heard that beep before, I don't know why it's beeping. Batteries are out in there. Right, what we'll do is we're going to change the battery. I will be back shortly. Right, we're back. We measured, the problem with this was the battery had gone in the multimeter, not in the Circuit Specialist Soldering Iron Station. This is a 75 watt premium solder station. So now, you see now I've put it up to 480 degrees. So here we go, 480 degrees, same tip, same probe. Now this probe tends to go a bit weird when it gets hot because it bends at this end, because it's, you don't want it at this temperature too long. But we're going to measure this. I measured this yesterday at round about 360, 370 when it should be 480. So we're going to measure it. There we go, safely up to 329, 330, 340, 350. Here you go, and it's teetering about round about 340, 350. I'm going to turn the soldering iron around, probe back on. We're clearly not getting up to temperature. Going to about 340. Not as high as I was going yesterday, but I just want to show that this machine, the soldering iron, is not getting up to heat. It's hard for me to stay out of the way here. Probe's bending all over the place. What meant to keep getting this hot? I'm going to come around the other side, see if I can work better. So as you can see, soldering iron at 480 degrees, it's still flashing. Is that saying it's not up to temperature? It means it's not getting up to temperature at all. That's red hot. Tips in there, it's in there solid. So I think we've ascertained, and we're actually proving that there's a problem with this either machine or soldering iron itself. Now this soldering iron is the old one, so I've had it 15 months. The elements don't last forever. There you go, I think now. See, the probe is just bending now. Too hot. Now, the company have said because of this, and have you tinned your tip, and is it a new tip, and all this, and blah blah, and fluctuation, and this, that, and the other. I'm thinking, I'm not stupid, mate. I know when my iron's not hot enough. Here you go, 340, 350. So we get about 350 out of 480. I know how to solder. I know where my tip's going to work. This tip should be as hot as any tip I'm ever going to get. It's a chisel tip, 3mm chisel tip, and it's from a company, and it's a brand new tip. Got a little bit of tarnishing on there, but 360 degrees, 370. That's the most we're going to get out of it. 370 degrees. It should be 480, so 100 degrees below. Now I've already ascertained that the multimeter was 2 or 3 degrees over. So if it's 2 or 3 degrees over, we can safely say this is, even though it's showing 360, it's probably only giving 350 Celsius out. I'll calibrate that machine later. But it's only giving up about 350 Celsius. So that is the old soldering iron with a new tip. What I'm going to do is now, I'm going to swap this over. I'm going to let it cool down, but I'm going to swap this over. I'm going to put this same tip in the new soldering iron, the brand new one. This is one I didn't need, well, it wasn't. It's not because of this that the machine's not working properly. I'm going to get the money back for this. They're going to say, but you've used it now, so it's not the point, I don't need it. But I've had to test it anyway, and it's not working. I'm going to prove it's not working properly with a new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the machine, I'm going to put it back on 300. You'll now watch it, it'll drop. There you go, it's going to drop temperature now. It's going to drop down to 300. And when it's dropped to 300, I'm going to turn the machine off. I'm going to let this cool down. I'm going to let this tip cool down. I'm going to remove the tip from here, and I'm going to put it in the new one, and we're going to do the same experiment again. So come back in a few minutes, 10-15 minutes, when this is cooled down. I can move it. I'll show you me moving it, and we're going to do all this experiment again with the new soldering iron. So we're back online. We're going to do, I've waited 10-15 minutes. I've been outside in the garden tending my potato patches. That side, the soldering iron's cooled down enough for me to remove the tip, so I'm going to do just that. I'm going to put the same tip in the new soldering iron. This is a new one, it's got 907 on it. Thought I was for a different model. This one doesn't have 907 on it. Apart from that, it looks pretty much the same. The cable was about an inch difference in the cable. So I'm going to remove this one. Everything's going to be done on camera. So we're going to remove the shielding, the cover. We're going to remove the tip. We're going to show that this is the old. That's the old one. I thought the element had gone. Look how burnt that is. But this is the old one that came with the iron when I bought it in April, 6th of April, 5th of April, something like that last year. I've shown them all the invoices from when I bought it. So that is the original one. We're going to now put in the new one. Original one gone. We know that's not working correctly, or we know this is not working correctly. Now they've told me that this will not break, that will be doing what it's supposed to do. So has it always been that cold? So what we're going to do is now we're going to put in the new, got the new soldering iron, brand spanking new, just arrived this week. I ordered it this week, and let's make sure we get it in right. You can't get them in wrong. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, it's a 7-8 pin DIN. So this wouldn't work on a hacker machine, this will only work on this machine. Tighten up in there. Right, we're in. Make sure we get the tip right, okay. Just to show this is brand spanking new, which it is. There you go, new element in there. It's going back anyway because it's not working right. Tip from CSI, it's their own, don't have any markings on there. There you go. Should be tight. I like to give it just a little nip, and I don't mean major, I mean just a little nip with a plier. There you go, that's about 1/16 of the turn, not even that. just to make sure it's on there. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in, 300 degrees, bam, off we go. Turn on the machine, well not doing turn on the machine yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly the same test. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to heat up, or a few seconds to heat up. Thing is, I don't solder often, but when I do I need something reliable. I'm going to go and buy the Hakko FX888D unit. I can get one for £120. This cost me 68 quid delivered. It's been okay for a year, but I need something I can rely on. Why this is not giving me the temperature I want, I don't know. There's going to be a bit of fluctuation in here in the way we're measuring the heat. I do know that, and I do understand that. But 100 degrees, 130 degrees, on 480 it's 130 degrees below where it ought to be. I'm going to let that heat up a couple of minutes and I'm going to come back because I'm going to go and get a copy of the email Brett from Circuit Specialist actually sent me to make sure I'm going to test this right and I'm measuring it right. I'll be back in a second. Right, so here we are with the same tip in the new iron. Now let me just move this out of the way. I think we're pretty good there. So same tip, new iron. I've been across with, get it white with some emery board, as suggested in the email. I've got the email over there to read out to you. So there you go, it's all cleaned up. It is a new tip anyway. I got the email from Brett, a copy of the email, which I'm going to stick there under the paper, and I'm going to read out why I test this. Now, I'm going to get this back on heat. I've got the email right in front of me. I'm going to read from the email, basic just a bit. I'm going to put this probe on there. You can see it. This is with the new. It's a new soldering iron, this one, brand new. It's one I bought, £18.95 delivered. So there you go. You can see that going up to whatever degrees it's going to. I'm going to read the email. Brett says, he introduces himself and he goes, from your description I have a good idea of what may be happening here. Are you using the fine tip that came with the iron or a wide chisel tip? Well, I'm using a wide chisel tip which came from CSI, Circuit Specialists, one of their own. I've got the invoice for that. For guitar audio work, I recommend using wider tips to better conduct the heat from the iron to application. Well, you can see here, this is a new soldering iron. Look at the heat on that. We've got 225. This is a brand new soldering iron and a new tip. Get it back on there. To show right at the end there. I can't see what's happening on camera because I ain't got it pointing at me. Or the screen points at me. This is a new tip. New soldering iron, 228 degrees, 229 degrees. Is it any better? I can't remember what the old one did. Same heat, I think. 227 there. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to clean that tip. We're going to now bring it up to 480 degrees. And I'm going to read the rest of this email. If you're using a wide chisel tip, please confirm how old this tip is, or it's a new tip. Are there any signs of oxidisation or corrosion of the tip? If so, this can remove the light emery paper. Would you call that corrosion? Don't think so. It's got a little bit golden, but that's not oxidisation, is it? That's pretty good. It's a fine tip. So the new iron is giving us the same or less heat than the original iron. I would say the problem is not with, he says the base unit's not a problem. I'm going to carry on reading the email. In our experience, this issue has never been the performance of the base station. In situations such as this, the problem is always caused by one of the following issues. Issue with the element in iron handle. Unlikely to just purchase a new one, that's right. And the new one is given the same reading as the old one. So it was never the element. Width of tip or heat transfer issues. This is a big thing. It is a heat transfer issue. Now our problem with these is the tips don't fit the element properly. I'm going to get a tip, another tip from CSI on the old element. And there's, this is a CSI one. There you see, the element doesn't go right to the end of the barrel inside, and it's loose. That is where you're getting your heat transference issue. So the issue is with the construction of the soldering iron as far as I'm concerned. The only places where you're getting a good connection is here and here, where this bracket or this sleeve pulls the soldering tip down, but it doesn't pull it right onto the element, and it's still inside. There's an air gap in there. These are your problem, the construction of these. If that base unit's not a problem, I still think that base unit may have a problem. It's not eating up to what it says it is. So here we go. Carry on reading the email. Part 3, age and condition of tip, problems with heat transfer due to oxidised tip. Okay, I think we can discount that. I'm not a physicist, so it's just basic physics, but I don't know anything about this. All I'm doing is I'm doing it from common sense. Addressing the above 3 points will normally resolve the issue. Initially, please confirm the tip you're using to solder and how old this tip is. Well, I bought the tip last year, but it's not been used. In the event of using a new chisel tip, there's one further option to increase heat output of the tip. This can also be a temporary solution, even when using an older oxidised tip. Below the control dial, you'll see a small hole marked CAL in capital letters, CAL. This is a calibration port. It's often used by those who change tips constantly in order to gain a uniform performance at the tip. Well, oh, by the way, there's my tinning solution, or tinning powder. There's not a calibration thing on this model. Maybe it's electronic calibration, I don't know, but not on this model, there isn't one. So he's got his wires crossed here. Maybe he doesn't realise I've got the CSI Premier 75 watt version, which I paid about 67 quid. I bought that last year. I bought it April 2016. So I can't calibrate that. Maybe it's got an electronic calibration device in there somewhere. I'll have to read up on that in a bit. And I'm stating the obvious when I say that a fine point tip will show a much lower reading on the thermocouple compared to a wider chisel tip. But it's surprising how many customers talk to do not fully understand the heating properties of the different widths of tip. Well, yeah, I do get that, and I got that anyway. What I'm saying is, I understand that you're explaining this to someone who's probably never ever soldered before, and that's absolutely fine. It's the way I do. I do lots of videos, and I do a lot of guitar instruction videos and guitar repair videos, and I explain as if I'm explaining to an alien. So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not insulted by the way he's talking to me like I'm a 3-year-old. That's absolutely fine. He says it's basic physics really. If you had a wider chunk of metal, it will hold the heat for longer than a fine conical tip would. Yeah, I get that, completely get it. So wider tips stay hotter for longer, less prone to atmospheric cooling. Same heating issues apply to oxidisation. If you think of the element in the iron, blah 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 blah, we know all that. We know there's going to be a small difference here. Blah 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 blah. So he says with a small flathead screwdriver, you can use a small screw hidden inside the cal hole to turn up or down the calibration. Well, I can't do that because it's not on there. I've looked all over the unit. I imagine there's a small trim pot. There'll be a trim pot in there. I get trim pots and stuff. I know a bit of electronics. So there's going to be, I don't see why you have to dismantle something to get at it. But it looks like with this you do. So what I'm going to do with this is, I don't think this is fit for purpose, to be honest. Though it has worked for 14-15 months. There could be a problem with that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to test though. Now we're now up, I've let that sit 5 minutes, enter. 480 degrees Celsius, it's blinking. Soldering iron's there. We're going to clean it up in the gunk. And copper cleaning solution there. So there you go. And we're going to measure this now. I'm going to measure it. Brand new iron. It's going to go darker because it's 400 odd degrees, what it's supposed to be. I'm going to measure the tip. We'll put the tip on there. And you just watch this machine down here. And it's gone up to 250, 260, 270, 280. Come on, you can do better than that, surely. 275, 280, 290. It's not good at all, is it? 290. Come on, 270, 280. Even with oxidisation, that's taking the mickey a bit into it. See, look how that bends here. That does do that when it gets hot. Try and keep it straight. Now, I already know that my multimeter is 2 or 3 degrees, is 2% higher reading than normal. So even this, I just went to 300 there. Do you see it? So we're getting about 290 there. Come on, it's 300, 320. So it's maxing out about 320, look. 317, 318, 320. So on a reading on the multimeter at 324, 325 degrees, My CSI Premier 75 watt is showing 480 degrees. There is a problem. 300, maxing out about 320 look. That's the best we're going to get. Tip is a little dark. Again, some emery. This is some 600 grit emery here. I have some knocking about because I've been doing some sanding on some guitars. So we're going to clean that up just a little. There you go, cleaned up. Going to get some tinning. There you go, we'll re-tin that. Clean it up. And again, see what we're going to get here. Even if we get to 350 or 360, which we should easily, should we get up to 400 easily, 420, 450, 290, 300, 320, so it's a little bit better, 330, 340, beautiful, 348, it's maxing out at 350-ish. If we've gone to 360, keep watching. So even with a sanding and a re-tin and get rid of oxidisation, we're getting a maximum read of 360 degrees. It should be 480. So again, that's a reduction of 25% in what it should be. Exactly the same reading we got with the old soldering iron. There you go, it bends, it does do that. I'm going to turn it over and get a reading from the other end. So same reading, so this soldering iron, the other one didn't need replacing, so I've wasted 20 quid there. It didn't need replacing. Here you go, this one. Oh, we managed to get up to 386, look. 390. Good reading. So we're up to 390. We're still 90 or 390. We're going to hit 400. 400 degrees. That's pretty good. But on a 480, it should be reading 480. We're getting 400 just. 401. So we're getting 400 degrees when it should be 480. We're still 80 degrees down. That is a fifth down. That's 20%. So we're getting a fluctuation of between 20 and 25% less than we ought to be, than the machine we ought to be getting on the machine. I don't think that's good enough for me. What I've done is today I've gone and bought myself a Hakko FX888D digital one from Dancap in the UK, a proper Hakko dealership. I should have bought one of them initially in the first place. I took a chance on this at 67 quid. It was recommended to me by a lot of people at the Hamer fan club guitar site. I've recommended this myself to other people, but after a year I'm not convinced. Not that I'm saying anything bad about it, it's just that I think the problem is with the construction of these soldering irons. So I'm going to ask, if you want this back, I'll send it them back. I'm going to ask that they give them money back for this because it's not needed, and I'm prepared. I've probably lost the money I've spent on that. It's not going to get above 400 degrees, which is fine, but I want something reliable. I want something I can use every day. So that's it. I'm going to get back to the company with this video. I'm going to encode this video in a minute. I've done the test, which is what I set out to do. I'm not a scientist, you know. I've done that to the best of my ability. I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to finish this video off. You're going to see my face, so I'm going to show my face on the video. So I'm going to be back in about 10 seconds. So here we go, back like I said, show my face now. I'm Victor Christian. If you don't know, I'm telling you that's who I am, and there you go, now you do know. So there you go, this AidTech VC99 multimeter, multifunction gubbins is reliable. It was 2 degrees above when I checked the kettle, the temperature on my kettle, 100 degrees Celsius boiling point on boiling water. So that probably needs a bit of calibration. It doesn't mean this is dodgy, it just means it's a little bit needs calibrating. But that's giving a higher readout than it ought to, a 2% higher readout. So we could take another 2% off the final readers we've got. So with the CSI Premier 75 watt solder station, the maximum I was getting I don't think we went above, we went up to 400, didn't we, on the second one, just for a few seconds here. I'm going to measure it again, because I've let it sit for another 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to plug this back in. You're not going to see it, you're going to take my word for it. I don't think we're going to get more than 400, absolutely not. But we're averaging out at about 370 when it was set to 480. Now that's not really good enough, is it? I'm going to measure this again while I'm talking. So, I've done the test that I told Brett I'd do. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a specialist. I've just done this with the tools I've got. I've done the old soldering iron, new soldering iron. That's now getting up to 260, 270. And I've just done the test as I said I would. We're up to 280. This is going to go over 300. Only on one side though. That's it. Now it's been sat for a while, it's gone back down, we're getting 300 on there. So that's it, I'm prepared to leave that. I think it's averaging about 360 degrees, which on 480 it's a reduction of 25%. So you can see the problem. I believe the problem is with this. With the way, this is the old one by the way, I'm not touching that new one because it's hot. This is one of their tips, and there you go. Once I loosen that, listen, it doesn't sit tight on the element. Now I've got an Antex handheld 25 watt soldering iron, and these, you've got a spring loader inside, and it sits and it goes on the element and it sits tight and there's no movement at all. That gets hot and brilliant. This is movement. Also, let me measure the depth inside this bit. Oh, there you go, it's quite deep. So there you go, there's the depth of it, and I'll measure that with that. And I can tell straight away. Right, there's about a 3mm difference. So the end of that is 3mm off the end of this inside the barrel. So that doesn't reach the inside of here at the end of that. So your heat transference is coming from the sides only. When it's coming from the sides only and it's wobbling like that, you're not getting good heat transference. The only thing that's holding that on and keeping it tight when you solder is this part of the sleeve. So that's where the problem is. I think these need to look at remaking these. This is your problem. He said in his email himself, it's heat transference from the base station to the iron itself. These are your problem. These are no good. They're not fit for purpose. So that's it. That's all I'm saying on the matter. I'm going to tell him I want money back for the new one I've just bought. If I get any compensation or any joy from the base station, I don't know. I'd like them to take the base station back, and I'd like them to test the base station for me, and that's what I'm going to ask that they do. They've always been, every time I've contacted them before, they've always got back immediately, and they've always been courteous, polite and understanding, so there's no problem there. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to recode this video, get this video coded up, and I'm going to post it on YouTube. I'm going to send them a link and they can go and look at it. And I'll let you know what happens when they get back to me anyway. So that's it. It's all I can do right now. There's no point me prattling on. I've got work to do. I've lost time all this morning. I've lost all this morning when I should have been working. So I'm going to crack on now, get this encoded, and I'm going to send it to them, and we'll see what happens from here. I'm buying a Hacko anyway, so let's see what happens.